Wilder Show podcast. You find us at wildershow.com. I'm Scott, and that's Lauren right over there.
Right here.
Yeah, we have lots to talk about today on the podcast. We'll get into that. We are on Instagram. You can find us there if you search for us. If you search hard enough, you will find us.
We could probably make it easier than
Wilder
that,
Show
right?
Pod, Wilder Show Pod, I think. Wilder Show Pod. And I haven't put hardly anything up there. I'll do better. I'll do better, Lauren.
We can do better.
Yeah, we can always do better. Anyway, you can email us, podcast@wildershow.com. And I want to say thanks for all the emails. We've gotten emails for Aunt Mary's Chocolate Icebox Pie. We've gotten emails wanting the Risk strategy, the game Risk.
It's kept you very busy.
Yeah, it's cool.
I feel like I don't have anything to offer.
Yeah, it's
What
okay.
can I offer?
We'll put something for you on there. But there you go. So thanks for the emails to podcast@wildershow.com. And the Wilder Show podcast drops Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. Central Time on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share. And also, we should say thanks for listening to us over on the music side. We do a thing 5 to 9 a.m. weekdays at The Light. And there is an app now for The Light. So you can search, I think, The Light Dallas if you're on Android, and The Light DFW if you're on an Apple iPhone.
Right.
And just you take it with you wherever you go.
It sounds really great, too.
It does sound good. So we have the talk side and the music side, which is so weird, isn't it?
How so?
To have done for years the music side, and then to have done for years the talk side, and then now to sort of do it in the newfangled way that it's all delivered.
All at the same time.
Yeah, at the same time, exactly. So anyway, thanks and thanks and thanks. Let me say a word about this because this is going to be a story, Lauren, in the days to come, the weeks to come. I hope it's not. I hope I'm wrong about this. And I don't know how this is going to be received. And I don't really, as you might imagine, I don't really care that much because this is the way that I really do see it.
Yeah.
We've talked before about all things with Ukraine and Russia and what's going to happen with Ukraine and Russia. And is Ukraine going to be told they have to give up some more of this to Russia? And we've talked about that. And what is the one thing we've said over and over and over again? We don't want this to send a message to China regarding Taiwan. Taiwan is a democracy. Taiwan is 90 miles. And it's a Taiwan Strait, that little strip of water there that is between China and Taiwan. It's a self-ruled island. It's a democracy. There was a thing, just to broaden for a second, there was a thing, remember when Donald Trump was saying it is now the policy of the United States of America that there are only two genders?
I do. Male
and female. And we said, that's a big deal. Not the male-female part. That's a big deal to say, for the president to say, it is the policy of the United States. That is sort of a weird thing that it triggers certain things. It is now the policy of the United States. It is revocable. It can be changed, but it would have to be changed by another president. So another way to say it is now, and therefore, until another president overturns this, it is the policy of this country that there are only two genders. And so when it comes to, filling out your passport or fill the whatever, it's only male or female.
Right.
It's only two, male or female. Now, this is not a gender issue. But if you go back quite a bit in time, and remember, Lauren, we were on the radio at the time, George W. Bush said, I think in either an address to a joint session of Congress or maybe in a State of the Union address, he said, it is the policy of the United States to stand with a democracy anytime, any place against tyranny.
I do remember that.
And he was talking about the policy of standing with Taiwan. And it was such a big deal at the time. It was like, wow, because China may go after Taiwan. And when China goes after Taiwan, we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do. And China was a huge trade partner. At the time, there was the whole WTO, the World Trade Organization, and China wasn't in it, and they wanted to get in it. And all. So it was a whole big thing. So when George W. Bush said that about Taiwan, we said on the radio at the time, there's going to come a day where China is going to move on Taiwan. And the United States of America is going to have to stand for that democracy, going to have to stand for Taiwan. So when you look at the whole thing with Russia and Ukraine, part of that is you don't want Russia to march to the west and go from Ukraine to Poland to Romania to wherever. That's part of the thing. But actually the bigger thing is China and Taiwan. That is actually the much bigger story, is to watch what lesson is learned by President Xi. Is that right? President Xi, by looking at what's going on with President Trump and Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky. So that's just something to watch. I mean, I hope it never comes about, but I know there's a piece in the Wall Street Journal about this, and it just, I think it's going to happen. I hope that for whatever reason, I hope China sees America as a strong supporter, an unflinching supporter of democracies, plural, and that would mean that it would include Taiwan, and therefore they would not want to, go down that road. But there's talk of a complete blockade of Taiwan. All they have to do, all China has to do, is surround Taiwan, keep everyone from accessing it and it from accessing anyone else, and just squeeze it into submission. It would not take very much, but a blockade a long time ago is a declaration of war.
Right.
And so if you blockade a country, you are declaring war. Another question is, going way back to what George W. Bush said, will America stand with Taiwan, a democracy, against the tyranny of China? Bill Mercer has died.
I loved Bill Mercer.
I did too. Bill Mercer, longtime sports announcer. Of course, I'll get to what he was known for many of us in a second. But he did the Rangers games. I bring that up because he died, but I also bring it up because this is the season opener this week.
It is.
Against the Boston Red Sox.
3:05.
Thursday afternoon. That's right. The Thursday afternoon, 3:05. But I do think of those days. Bill Mercer, when he was calling the games, it was fun to listen to. That was a lot of radio games.
Yeah.
I mean, I would listen on the radio. I listened to baseball on the radio, and just loved it. Part of it was, I guess, our life. Part of it also was, in those days, not every baseball game was on television.
Right.
So you had baseball was sort of on the radio. You can't have baseball on every night. There wasn't cable. And then finally, when there was cable, that's why and how the Chicago Cubs became such a favored team across the country, because they were on the Super Channel.
The Super Station.
What was on there? The Chicago one.
WGN.
And then you had the WTBS Atlanta, had the Atlanta Braves.
They did.
And so if you didn't have a team or you couldn't watch, you had that. But before there was cable, it was just whoever would carry them locally.
And you know what else was different then? Even if the game was on, it wasn't unusual to have one television in a house.
Oh, that's true,
and
too.
if you had, more than a handful of people, you had some competition for what, and no way, man, I'm making us sound ancient, no way to tape whatever you might have been missing.
Of course not, yeah.
If it was on, you had to watch it when it was on.
Yeah, I like
and you didn't always get your way.
Your way. I like that. I do like that. And so Bill Mercer has passed. He was 99 years old.
That's a good run.
Boy, no kidding. Working on profit for a bunch of that time. That is something. And then, of course, many of us knew Bill Mercer. He was the announcer for World Championship Wrestling, or wrestling.
Of course.
Do you remember the Sportatorium? The old Sportatorium there near downtown Dallas by the liquor stores?
We've talked about this, and I don't think... Was it still there when, I never went there, and I didn't move here until like the very late 70s.
No, yeah, it was there then. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I just missed my opportunity to go.
Well, if it wasn't in your path to see, you wouldn't see it right there. But it was just south of downtown Dallas, and we used to watch World Championship Wrestling every Saturday night.
Right.
As kids, when little kids, it's very, it's ridiculous stuff, and it's nothing like, it isn't as these days. The new one is sort of almost salacious.
We did watch. We did watch wrestling. My dad was a big wrestling fan. In fact, we probably watched wrestling from the Sportatorium before we even lived here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yeah, you probably did. And Bill Mercer was the announcer there. And my story about the Sportatorium, I think I went there one time. I think when I was in high school, maybe some guys went down there one time. But I had a car accident right there on the freeway. And it was a one-car accident. It was just me. And I hit the barrels. You know how when you can go left or you can go right? Yeah. Like to select if you want to go to this freeway or like that freeway?
Oh, yeah. And there's like a V in between and you've got to go to either side of it?
Yeah, you're supposed to.
Okay.
And in the middle, they have those big barrels.
Right.
And the barrels, sometimes they're filled with sand. Sometimes they're filled with water.
Yeah.
And I did like bowling. I went right into the middle of that. And it wasn't good. And so we had no cell phones. And so I had to get out of my car and run across 2 lanes of traffic on the freeway to go down the embankment there. And I went and used the payphone right outside the Sportatorium.
Wow.
So I call my folks and I said, hey, it's I'm okay, but I'm pretty sure I totaled my car.
Oh no.
And so my dad, so they ended up coming to get me. I went to the hospital, had some stitches and whatnot. But I remember the first thing. I remember the shirt I was wearing. So you'll appreciate this. You're good with memory.
I remember stuff like that.
I remember it was a brand new sort of a cream colored polo short sleeve, really soft, comfortable shirt.
Was it really a polo shirt?
I think it might have been in those days.
Well, that would have made it even more special back then.
Well, and here's what happened. So I looked down after the impact, and there was blood all over my shirt.
Oh no!
And I first I felt to make sure everything was still intact, on my face. But I said out loud in the car that was totaled, right there up the little hill from the Sportatorium. I looked down and I said out loud, "This was a brand new shirt."
Oh no!
That was the first thing that I thought of. Anyway, so. That's my run-in, well, no pun intended, but my run-in with the area down there. And Sportatorium's gone, of course, now. So rest in peace, Bill Mercer. We miss your voice. I had just seen something, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago about him. And it said, yes, Bill Mercer is still with us and blah, 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 blah. Now, maybe they knew it was going poorly or whatever, but he was 99. I can't remember when he would have turned 100, but I'm sure it will be noted in the opening games of the Texas Rangers this season that the passing of Bill Mercer, if you're new or a youngin', that won't mean very much to you, but you mentioned that to a longtime Texas Ranger fan or a longtime sports fan in Dallas-Fort Worth. They'll know. They'll know Bill Mercer.
That's right.
Okay, now I have a bone to pick with Hollywood. Would you get Hollywood on the line?
Sure.
I want to, I am weary. I mean, weary of, and I know people don't like this word. And
go ahead. I know what you're going to say.
Well, you know what? You describe it how you want. What is the word that best describes what it is we're talking about?
No, you can use the word. I just think it almost gets overused.
Okay, well, I won't use it.
No, it describes.
It's what Disney did with Snow White, and it I would say bombed over the weekend, but it cost them $250 million to make. Yeah, and it made $48 million on its opening weekend, and so it was no pun intended, a sleepy start to Snow White. But you know what? I'm glad it didn't do well. Well, I am so tired of people taking things that were good and were innocent and messing them up. Here's what they do. They say, yeah, we're not going to do the Someday My Prince Will Come. We're not going to have Seven Dwarfs. We're not going to have her look the way that she actually was described as looking. The person there should probably look like the person in the story. I don't think that's that big a deal. that you have particular things about a fictional character. That's not a huge thing.
Right.
However, the fact that someday my prince will come, that really was the story.
Mm-hmm.
The story was the story.
Yeah.
And here's what people do. They take the stuff that you already feel good about, and they change it and they manipulate it, and then they expect you to pay to go see it. And when you go and you find out it's nothing like what it really was. Snow White is not really Snow White. What I mean to say is it's not the story.
No.
That's not the story. There already is a story of Snow White. And guess what? In that story, there is a prince, and there are 7 dwarfs. And someday my prince will come is sort of the theme. This is the part I don't get, Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
How can one of the most popular TV shows, which I am not a fan of, how can one of the most popular TV shows be The Bachelor
mm-hmm.
or The Bachelorette, which is all about that sort of someday my prince
waiting
will
for a
come.
prince to come?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
How can that be the most popular TV show? And they have to, in my view, ruin the Snow White story. Now, I say ruin only because it doesn't need to be modernized.
Well,
there is a story called Snow White. If you want to have a different story where, somebody, the girl is different and not Snow White, and she doesn't have a romance, and she wants to marry, marry, how offensive. She wants to be romantically involved with a robber.
Mm-hmm.
That's not Snow White. That's not the Snow White story.
We
write
do
that story and see if anybody comes.
We do stuff like this though from time to time, though, right? Like we update story, or we put a modern twist on things, and it's. I mean, I don't like. I'm not going to see it.
Example.
I don't know. I'd have to have you pause and let me look something up. But I'm
okay.
sure we do. I mean, we retell stories, right?
Yeah,
all I'm saying is, even if we don't, this just doesn't bother me that much. The original Snow White is still intact. We still have the story. Nobody said we're burning all the copies of that and we're erasing it from all tablets and obelisks. I agree with you completely. Wasn't necessary. I don't know that that's the only reason that it's bombing at the box office, which it is. But even if it weren't for all of those other things, I mean, let them retell it, remake it, and it's failing.
Yeah, well, I guess what I think about when I see things like this is, I think of the people that will go there, and they will see the poster, and they will see the the Snow White looking person, and they will see the little bluebird on her finger.
Yeah,
and they'll say, "Oh, my grandkids would love to go see that." And I'm going to take them. And they're totally conned into believing it is something that it's not. It's not those things.
Yeah.
And that's okay that it's not. We have plenty of movies that are not those things. But when you name it the thing that is something else, and then you completely change it, I don't know. It feels like a bait and switch to me.
No, yeah, well, maybe it is a little bit. Fortunately, it's not the end of the world.
No, I didn't suggest that.
If you before you take, we used to talk about all the time how when our kids were little and their friends would go see these movies, and we would say, to each other, we'd say, how could their parents let them see that? Did they not read anything about it before they went? We had read, found these websites where you could see how many bad words were in any, and which they were all, categorized by which bad word they were, and there were other parents who were not just kind of going in blind. And I'm sure there will be people who think live action Snow White, I bet it's just like the, Snow White from 1930, whenever. But, so if the worst thing that happens is that she doesn't fall in love with a prince and she falls in love with a robber.
Yeah.
I'm not that worried about that.
They're remaking Little House on the Prairie. To modernize it, they have Albert wearing Mary Ingles' prairie skirt.
You're making that up.
I am. I hope I'm making that up. Are they going to have to tear down the cabin because the front porch is not ADA compliant? The story is the story. And if you want to write another story, write another story. write a story that is completely different. But if they take something and they twist it just enough to not be what it was, but still want to make the money for what it is believed to be.
They're not doing that.
Well, they're not so far. I don't know. But they have to make like $600 million.
Yeah, it cost $250 million to make. They made like $43 million here, but it's failing abroad too. It may be $44.5 million.
Unbelievable.
It's going to take them a long time to recoup what they spent making this.
March Madness, of course, is going on. Both my teams that I was pulling for are out.
They are?
Out, yeah.
Who are you pulling for?
Well, just because of where I've been and where all my money went. Mm-hmm. Baylor was knocked out. Duke, just the Blue Devils, killed them. I mean, really killed them. It was
about that.
Ugly and ugly. And then let's see who else. Texas A&M, a surprising loss. That was a real surprising loss. And I'm not a huge basketball fan. I mean, I like basketball. It's okay. But I only have so many, udels, sports udels. And I can't watch all the basketball that everybody else watches.
Even at this time of year?
No, I was going to say, I have an exception. For tournaments, I really enjoy watching. I like to see the tournaments and see who's going to make it through to the round of 32, the round of the Sweet 16, and the Elite 8, the Final 4, and then the championship game. Uh-huh. But I saw something the other day that was probably the coolest thing, and you may even be surprised that I would think this is cool, but the coolest thing I've seen in the tournament, it was, who was it? Liberty. Liberty was losing to Oregon 78-46.
Oh.
I mean, talk about a thumping.
Oh, yeah.
So Oregon is going to win the game. They're at 54.7 seconds left in the game. Mm-hmm. The game's over, right? And the clock is ticking down. Well, there's this kid, J.C. Shirer Jr., who is waiting to enter the game. And the clock is ticking down, and he's not going to be able to enter the game.
So he's not played.
He has not played, hasn't played at all. Mm-hmm. Liberty guard J.C. Shirer. He was waiting to check in, just to live his dream of playing in the NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. Now, at the end of 54.7 seconds, their team will not have another opportunity this year, and so that would be it. Well, so Oregon is up 32 points. Outcome is not even in doubt. You know what's going to happen. A referee named Roger Ayers notices this kid waiting to come into the game and knowing the clock is ticking down and he's not going to make it in the game. He pretends there is a wet spot on the court that needs to be dried. So they had to call a timeout, which allowed JC to sub into the game.
Oh, wow.
And he got his moment, so he can now forever say that he got to play in the NCAA tournament. I thought that was, and I'm not normally soft with that kind of stuff, but I thought that was just really, really cool.
That is very cool. And I think you are kind of soft for that stuff.
Yeah, don't tell anybody.
There's just not a lot of stuff in the middle. Yeah. You're soft for, a few things, but then you're like not. On a whole lot of on other things. That's on very important things.
That's so true.
But,
anyway,
yeah,
I thought that was cool because this kid got to play, and who knows if you ever have a chance to play again. Obviously, in the tournament. So there you have the very good.
It's very sweet.
You were going to say that very sweet moment from the March Madness games. Oh, it is time for scatter shoot.
Let's go.
The Wilder Show Scatter Shoot. This is sort of like the basket that you can't wash it with the red stuff or with the jeans. You can't go in with the sheets. So this little basket of stuff. You
got to wait forever for it to be a full load of stuff. Yeah.
That's what probably not a perfect analogy, but that's
hope not.
Part of what Scatter Shoot. We're just a bunch of old dish towels here in Scatter Shoot.
I'm so anxious to hear now. Young adults are becoming increasingly unhappy. More and more unhappy. So happiness used to be sort of a U-shaped thing. We'd start out happy, in our younger years. Then we might have a midlife crisis, but then we'd bounce back and be happy again in our golden years. Now we're sadder earlier, and we just kind of stay that way. And let me tell you, the decline began around. You want to guess?
2013.
2012, 2013.
Okay, listen,
Think
this
about
is
why.
so...
Let's put our thinking caps on.
Let me see. What happened in those days? Look, can I change a word? I know it's not a word in your story, but you have... What did you call it?
They're increasingly unhappy. Young adults are becoming increasingly unhappy.
Another word for unhappy might be dissatisfied.
I knew you were going to say that. That's exactly right.
Dissatisfied. Yeah. And let's take a look at dissatisfaction for a second. You can be dissatisfied a bunch of different ways. One way is if you have an expectation that is not met, right?
Right.
So if you had a really high expectation and you got good, but not as high as you expected, you would then be disappointed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Disappointment is the gap between expectation and delivery. And I believe increasingly, maybe because of social media, that's what changed in 2012, 2013. Maybe because of that, maybe because of something else, the entitledness that people feel, all people feel they deserve, the attention they deserve, the money they deserve, the happiness they deserve, the stuff they deserve, they compare their stuff to other people's stuff. When you expect to have more and you don't get it, no matter how much you get, it's not going to be enough.
You know, what do we do with that now, though, that the genie's kind of out of the bottle? You know, you talked about social media, and of course, I think in a way we can. It seems like almost every time we come here to do the podcast, I have some story about something, and sometimes it gets left out, but about something that has changed or been affected by social media or phones or, you know, and all of the things that go along with that. And of course, you know, if we look at, if we say, you know, young people were happier in the 80s or 90s, what was different? Well, we didn't have as much to compare ourselves to. When I was, when I was that age, what did I had friends and I had people in the neighborhood, and I maybe had people at work and my family, and maybe every once in a while I'd look at a magazine, but it wasn't the vast, the number of Instagram accounts, TikTok accounts, whatever. But I mean, I think we can, to compare yourselves to, and now it's like, everybody knows the salary that everybody else makes. So if you don't make as much as somebody else makes, you're worried about that too. And we could talk about that, I think, till we're blue in the face. But this is where we are. So what do we do about that?
The great words, the great advice from the movie War Games. The only way to win is not to play.
Well, that's true.
That is the only way to win. If you compare yourself to somebody else, I've never been like about cars. I've never been a covetous guy about that.
Right.
I've never looked at a guy or anybody, and it's been, growing up, looked at a guy, man, that guy's got a great car. I wish I had that car. I mean, I wish I had a car like he has. I'm dissatisfied with my car. It wasn't that at all. I didn't care about that. And the thing is, every time you see the brand new car that is the greatest car, it's the brand new one of the greatest cars. There's another one coming out next year. And another one coming out next year.
Well, that's true about everything. That's true about phones. That's true about what people do to their houses, how you decorate your house, how you remodel your house. What does your kitchen look like?
The only way to win is not to play. Yeah. That is the only way. Because when you start comparing, I say, look, man, it's like you keep notching it up and ratcheting it up and ratcheting it up. It's like, if you're not Jesus, I mean, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
And nobody is. So, don't play. What's the old definition of the rat race? Remember? It was spending money you don't have for things you don't need to impress people you don't care about. And don't many of us just run around and do that kind of thing again and again and again?
Yep.
And it's better just to find people that you really care about and just work to build that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about everybody else. Who cares? And for young people, stop having high expectations. Modify expectations and focus on what's most important.
Mm-hmm.
And not to get too Sunday school about it, but really, honestly, sometimes we chase all this stuff because we don't really have a sense of what our value is.
Yeah.
We don't really know. We don't know what our real value
mm-hmm.
is. Our value is whatever the price tag that the rest of the people put on us. The price, my value is how many listeners I have, or how many viewers I have, or how many likes I have. And someone who has more likes than me, they are more valuable than me. My value comes from that. No, it doesn't. Your value has nothing to do with that. Nothing.
Right.
Your value, is set, and it's set by something that has nothing to do with Instagram or any of those things, or followers, or likes, or retweets, or whatever you call those things now. That's somebody. If you're grounded in what really is important, if you know what your value is. I mean, didn't we strive to do that with our kids?
Well, we did, and that's what I was going to say.
We strove to make sure that they understood what their value was, and they would have a sense of self-worth and a sense of self-confidence, not in a puffed up way, but in a real way, that they would understand that they have a confidence that comes when they understand their real value, not their value that someone else places on them.
I mean, I would never say that was an easy thing to do. That wasn't an easy thing to instill in kids when our kids were young. But I do feel for parents now who there's so much more noise. The voices that are kind of fighting against all of that are so much louder and harder to intercept, maybe. They're just coming through so many new channels.
It's tough. I mean, we as parents, growing up. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, we had something called I don't know if it's still in the dictionary anymore. It was called delayed gratification.
Oh yeah.
and you didn't buy something if you didn't have the money for it.
Right.
And so you saved up for it, and maybe your friends, maybe their parents did something different than yours did, but maybe they got their bicycle before you did. Yeah, they're riding around and you're not.
Or their car.
Absolutely, with car. Maybe you just have to save your money, a little delayed gratification. Maybe that's. But I think that it sounds mean, like I'm going to withhold something from you so that you'll build your character. But it really does. It builds something in you.
It does.
When you don't just. And I think you value it more.
You do. And you're building those muscles for when you really do have to do that on your own. Or maybe you're in charge of other people.
The only way to win is not to play.
Yeah.
When we're talking about this whole thing of comparison so I don't want kids to not have what'd you say, they're not happy? Well, you see.
It's young adults. But it's not even, unfortunately, it's not just kids.
It's young adults.
Young
it's
adults,
like the 18 to 30-year-olds ish. Well, I'd say work hard, tap the brakes, love each other, and, behave yourself. How about that?
That's good. Okay, speaking of sort of keeping up with the Joneses, didn't it used to be that buying the home was the stressful thing, like getting the down payment, figuring out, getting, in all different kinds of markets, there might not be a lot of houses to choose from, or maybe there are plenty of houses to choose from, but you got to figure out how you're going to get the money together. It turns out now that buying a home is just the beginning of the stress, because 76% of new homeowners feel pressured to keep up with or even surpass their neighbors when it comes to curb appeal.
You mean like the lawn and stuff? The
lawn. They're spending more and more. Who are they? Well, I could say we, but I don't mow my own lawn. So they're feeling more and more pressured to spend more hours every week and more money than they ever have before on the lawn. And then that's not even the end of it. There are more and more instances of neighborhood arguments over people feeling like somebody kind of pilfered their lawn design, stole their ideas for their own landscape. So stressful. So stressful. So much drama.
So hey, man, the flamingos were my idea.
Yeah.
No, I don't mow a lawn anymore. But there was a day, and you'll recall, when I really took great pride in doing a lawn. I loved the work, but I never really said my lawn is better than your lawn. I didn't care about that. I wanted the lawn that I was in charge of, my little tiny piece of land, to be as good as it could be.
Sure.
And so I, watered it. I took care of it. I took the weeds out if I could, and all that kind of stuff. And I loved doing it. I loved working on the lawn. I liked the physical task
and the satisfaction,
huge satisfaction. Yeah, totally good. And it was also just a fun way to. This sounds probably stupid, but it was just a fun way to spend, like a Saturday.
So let me ask you a question. It was a fun way for you to spend a Saturday. Was it as fun when you started? Like, did your kids think it was fun when it was time for you to get them in on the fun? So at what age, and had it always been fun for you? When did it become fun? When it was your little patch of earth?
My first job ever was mowing lawns, and we'd mow lawns. In fact, I think I've even shown you. I have a Wilder Brothers.
I remember that.
Wilder Brothers lawn service.
You were getting paid for that, though.
We got paid. What do you mean?
Well, it's easier to have fun when you're getting paid for it.
I got
less
a story.
Fun when...
No, I'm coming around.
Yeah, okay.
I'm coming around. And one of the reasons why we did that is because my parents did not let us mow our own lawn.
Why is that?
My parents loved to do the lawn work.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and they would not really argue, but they would vie for who was going to get to mow.
Oh, I love that.
And so my mom loved to mow. My dad loved to mow. I mentioned earlier in the podcast that, listening to Texas Rangers baseball on the radio. So I have vivid memories as a kid of at the end of a Saturday, Texas Rangers were on, and it was summertime, and we're out in the front lawn with, what do you call the chairs where the feet go up? What's it called?
Like a lounge chair?
Yeah, like a lounge chair. Lounge chair out front, a glass of iced tea, and listening to the Texas Rangers baseball game on this freshly mown lawn. So when we were kids, that was our first job, was to do that. And so I've always loved doing that, always. I always loved doing it. I didn't really have a chance to do it much at my own lawn, my parents' lawn, because they did it. And then I had my own place, and I was doing that. And I really loved doing it. I just loved mowing the lawn. I don't do it anymore, but I mean, it's for its day, it was fun. It's a great activity, and it was cathartic, I think.
Yeah.
I had a chance just to relax and in those days, I guess put in headphones over your Walkman or whatever it was.
Oh my goodness!
In the olden times,
your
but it
Discman.
was I know, like that. But I love doing the lawn. But so people are competitive now, but they think they're going to steal other people's designs. I mean, is that what you're saying?
Well, other people, like some people, are worried that the neighbors are going to copy their landscape design. I don't really feel like I'm competitive about stuff like that, but I'm really glad for you that you're out of the mowing games, so you don't have to worry about all that drama now. One last thing for you. I was wrong about something. I was wrong about something that we...
Wait, hold on a second. Let me check something real quick.
Yeah. Just want to make sure that you're actually recording.
I'm still recording. What did you just say?
I was wrong. I was wrong about something that we talked about on Friday's podcast.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Mark. Okay, go ahead.
We talked about, there had been a news story about Scott Peterson.
Yeah.
Scott Peterson, who is serving a life sentence for killing his wife Lacey and their unborn son Connor. In 2002, and there were reports that he had been beaten up by a fellow inmate. And it happened when Scott Peterson was out in the yard playing pickleball. And I thought, so that was the story. But the thing that kind of bothered me about it was I thought, well, why does he get to play pickleball?
So I don't make it clear. Your problem was, your thought was, anybody who's in jail for that, in prison for that, they should not have.
They shouldn't get to have that.
They shouldn't be able to have that fun of playing pickleball.
That lighthearted fun.
I got it.
It seemed incongruous to me.
Yeah.
And then it occurred to me, have you seen a movie called Sing Sing?
I have not. Is that about the? Is it about the jail?
It's about Sing Sing.
Prison.
It's about it's about the prison.
Okay.
And it was just out this year, and it's based on a true story. I loved the movie. Thought it was a beautiful movie, and it's all about prisoners hardened criminals. I mean, in prison for committing terrible crimes. And it's about this group of them that are a part of this a drama group. And they put on plays. And some of them are like at Shakespeare.
Put on plays in the prison.
Yeah, and they do the costuming and they learn the lines and they put on these shows. And I thought that was great. I thought, what a wonderful opportunity. And I realized that those two things don't really.
Yeah. So
if I'm gonna if I'm gonna feel good about some prisoners doing Shakespeare, then I guess I have to.
Well,
I guess I have to let
fair.
Scott Peterson play pickleball.
That's so. So the art turned you around on the sport.
It did, and that's based on a true story. I mean, that is a program that actually existed. I think there's been a documentary about it too, and it was made into a film this year, and it's a beautiful story. And yeah, when it just was easier for me to get when it was associated with art, like you said, and not so much with the pickleball. But I was wrong.
Okay, that is Scattershoot. There you go, Lauren. There you go.
Wrapped it up.
We will see you on the radio if you want to. We'll see you there every single weekday morning, 5 to 9. If you want to go there, go to turnonthelight.com, and more news on that coming in the days ahead. But for those of us who love the podcast drops every Tuesday and Friday at 6 a.m. on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to email us, we invite you to do that. We'll get more recipes, requests for Aunt Mary's Chocolate Icebox Pie podcast at wildershow.com. All right, Wilder Show Podcast, thanks for being here. When you see it and hear it on wherever you see it on Amazon or iHeart or YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever, make sure you like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share, and we will see you again.
Name the seven dwarves. Name the seven.
All right, let me say my name real quick.
Okay.
Grumpy.
Mm-hmm.
Sleepy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bashful. Mm-hmm. Slumpy.
No, not slumpy. No.
Sleepy,
bashful,
sleepy, grumpy, bashful, sneezy.
Sneezy, yeah.
Okay, hold on, sneezy. The one that was sad, greavy.
No.
So dopey, greavy, slumpy.
There's no greavy or slumpy.
Hey, you know what? If they could remake Snow White, so can I. So there's no prince even in the movie?
I don't know if there's a prince.
Good Lord. Well, that's not Snow White.
You're right.
It's just a girl dressed up like Snow White, and they put Snow White on the title.
I was wrong about something.
I'm still recording. What did you just say?
I was wrong.
Mark.